Welcome into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. We're going to break down the playoff picture for the NFL entering Week 12. Yes, there is one more game between the Cowboys and the Raiders tonight. I'll make note that the combined playoff probability swing for both those teams is about 3%. So we don't need to worry too much about that one. We'll get ahead since we know how it all plays out for this upcoming week. Before we dive into it, who is the best team in the NFL? Is it the Eagles? They haven't been the prettiest wins, but they've won a lot. Is it one of the AFC teams? Maybe Denver, Indianapolis, New England. There's a lot of routes you can go there with no, clear-cut answer. So who is it? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. First up, the AFC Playoff Picture. As things currently sit, Denver is the new number 1 seed. Indianapolis was on bye, so they actually drop out of the tiebreaker front there. Denver has the tiebreaker narrowly over New England. Pittsburgh, for now, in that 4 spot, still not favored to make it and win the division, though. The Ravens are gaining ground. AFC, I think, is in line to have some really fun drama down the stretch. 7-win Bills team, 7-win Chargers team, a 6-win Jags team that has a bunch of different tiebreakers over all of these teams in the mix, including, but not limited to, Houston and Kansas City on the outside looking in. Baltimore, a real path to win the division. And then it's kind of like everybody else after that, including 4 and 7 Miami. In the NFC, and we'll go more in depth on the NFC first, then get to the AFC, Philadelphia has that top spot. The Rams, I should have mentioned them as maybe the best team. That actually might be my preferred answer at the number 2 spot. The Bears, winners of all the crazy games, have the number 3 spot. Tampa still has it at number 4 at 6 and 4. Seattle, isn't this fun to look at? 7-3 Seattle is number 5. 6-3-1 Green Bay is actually ahead of 7-4 San Francisco. Even though that sounds wrong, it's not. It's not. The Detroit, Carolina, also the top contenders in the NFC playoff picture. Let's go to the team that is at the top of the NFC. They cannot clinch yet, regardless of what happens in the Cowboys game. Potentially Thanksgiving weekend looks like when it'll be in line for the Eagles to potentially clinch, although they have a huge game against the Cowboys that would, they're already essentially in, but that would pretty much lock up the division from a de facto perspective. That's why we'll have, for all these teams, the playoff probability as predicted by Next Gen Stats over on the NFL website, greater than 99%, i.e. there's no way. The Rams are at 99%, so not quite greater than that yet. Big time win over the Seahawks. They've got a fun game against the Bucs and low-key the Panthers, who are still fighting for a playoff battle after what a great week. Week 11 was. Wild, great games across the board there. Rams, the number 2 seed. The Bears, I feel like they're recovering from years of just horrible losses, getting on the right side of them all year this year. They allow the J.J. McCarthy go-ahead drive and then get a return to put them in field goal range immediately. Kind of crazy there. Couple big games for them. Steelers, Eagles, Packers. And then they also play the Packers again, the Niners and the Lions. That's why that playoff probability is lower at 7-3. The schedule's very tough for Chicago down the stretch. Tampa, despite coming off a couple losses, I think real chance they lose against the Rams as well. Their playoff probability is pretty high because they get the Cardinals, the Saints, the Falcons without Michael Penix, maybe Drake London, we'll see. Carolina, Miami, Carolina. They're gonna end the year on a pretty good hot streak, I feel like. So good job there for Tampa. Seattle dropped from the number 2 spot to number 5 with the loss against the Rams. They play again in a couple of weeks. That'll be super fun. Schedule features the Titans, the Vikings, and the Falcons, plus the Colts before that Rams rematch, which very well, depending on how things play out, could determine and probably will determine who likely wins, if not clinch officially, the NFC West. Green Bay, 6-3-1. Wasn't always pretty against the Giants. They did gut out the win because Green Bay just doesn't ever want to play a normal, easy win game. Outside of the first couple of weeks, it's always been upset loss or hard-fought, narrow win. 3 straight NFC North games coming up here for Green Bay in the not-too-distant future. I should say the next 3 weeks. Vikings, Lions, and the Bears. They are not out of it in the NFC North. I think all 3 teams, we'll get to the Lions here in a little bit, feel like they've got a chance to win the division with how tough the Bears' schedule is down the stretch. Who do you think ends up winning the division? B for the Bears, P for the Packers, L for the Lions. The 49ers, again, I did not write them out of a playoff hunt, and the Next Gen Stats hadn't either, because they factor in the likely outcomes of their games coming up. The Panthers, which they kind of do need to win, and is big for playoff implications. But then they got the Browns bye week, the Titans, Colts will be a tough one, Bears, Seattle will be a tough one. That I think they can get to 10 wins. And I think 10 wins probably gets you in, but we'll see. Extra game, 10 wins is not guaranteed necessarily. And that brings us to the Detroit Lions. 75% chance still, but they're 6-4. Tiebreakers are a factor in there. They'd probably flip a little bit once the Lions get to their bye. Schedule mostly sets up for them, but it's not the easiest schedule, though. The Giants game that they should win. Packers game matters a lot. That Cowboys game they should win. But also the Rams, the Steelers who are not out of it. Minnesota, we'll see if they are alive or not. The Bears, there is a scenario in which we get to week 18 and the Lions-Bears game is for the division or for the wild card. There's a lot that can still play out, which makes it fun to have these videos where you got 8 teams who are legitimately in the mix for the playoffs. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better on PrizePicks, and the weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. Keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. PrizePicks is the only app to offer stacks. Pick the same lineup up to 3 times or same player in the same lineup up to 3 times. So you could do, for example, if you had done Josh Allen more than passing, rushing yards, and TDs, boy, that would have been a pretty easy win for you, right? This is our Monday Night Football PrizePicks lineup. Brock Bowers more than receiving yards. Javonte Williams more than rushing yards as well between the Cowboys and the Raiders. Fun fact, you can also follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app. Copy their lineups in one click with the new feed tab on PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Now, there are a couple teams who are still technically alive in the playoff hunt. Carolina is the best shape left of these teams here. At number 9, 21% playoff probability chance. They do kind of control their own destiny with some of the games they have coming up. Minnesota is down to 5%. They have to pretty much win out. Cowboys almost have to win out, realistically. 3-5-1. Maybe they get room for one of the AFC games they can lose. 4% right now. They lose against the Raiders. It's 1%. They beat the Raiders. It's 6% because, again, they should win that game. They're favored after all. These 5 teams, give it up, focus on the offseason. Arizona, less than 1%. Atlanta's at 2%. They are the favorite, outside of Carolina, obviously, to win the NFC South because the Saints have not been particularly good so far this year. No Michael Penix going to be Kirk Cousins the rest of the way. Yeah, it's over. Commanders, Saints, Giants, all less than 1%. I will make note, by the way, the Giants are the first team that can be officially eliminated next week. A loss plus either the Vikings win, the Seahawks win, or the Cowboys win those next 2 games, the one against the Raiders and next week against Philadelphia, will officially eliminate New York. They could be the first team that's out. We'll have this video for you each and every single week, breaking down the current NFL playoff picture. Help us out by subscribing. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV. Let's go to the AFC playoff picture. And eventually we'll start to split these up, by the way, into 2 separate videos. Not quite there yet. I don't have the clinching scenarios to justify it. Multiple 2-loss teams here. Denver, New England, and Indianapolis. Funnily enough, Denver and New England's byes are going to come later in the season, which is kind of funny on that front. We'll spend time on the wild card outlook, but chaotic wild card outlook maybe is better grammar. Let's go to Denver first, right? Big win over the Chiefs. Hats off to Denver, the defense, Bo Nix, all of them made a bunch of really nice plays there down the stretch. They have their bye this week, and then they get the Commanders and Raiders in back-to-back games. And they've also still got Packers, Jags, Chiefs, Chargers, so a bit of a tough stretch to end the season, but you should be thinking at least 11 wins for Denver. New England, nice win over the Jets on Thursday Night Football. They get the Bengals, which I assume will not feature Joe Burrow. The Giants, then their bye. They should be at 11 wins going into the bye as well. And then some tough games, Bills, Ravens, but also Jets and Dolphins. If you're New England, you're probably thinking we're going to get to 13 wins, kind of easily, right? Meanwhile, the Colts at 8-2. Chiefs this week, which we'll spend some more time on the other side there in a little bit. Houston Texans, Jacksonville, Seattle, San Francisco, Jags again, Houston. So by no means an easy stretch necessarily for Indianapolis, but again, they're in pretty good shape to find a way to win the division at minimum and maybe get that top seed. Who do you think of these three teams, the top contenders here, are the AFC's number 1 seed? DEN for the Denver Broncos, NE for the New England Patriots, IND for the Indianapolis Colts. Get those predictions in for me in the comments of today's show. The Steelers took care of business against the Bengals. Couple tough games in a row here. At the Bears, home against the Bills, and then maybe the most important game left. And really that Bears game is probably the least important of the three because it's not an AFC game. At the Baltimore Ravens. They also end the year against the Ravens. Only 39% playoff probability. Next Gen Stats does not believe in Pittsburgh in part because that schedule is pretty tough down the stretch. The Bills, and we'll also, of course, see how hurt Aaron Rodgers is. Anyway, Buffalo, that was a fun Josh Allen game, wasn't it? Awesome game against the Bucs, big-time win. Couple games in a row they think that they should win. Houston might end up being Davis Mills again. Pittsburgh, the Bengals, those are games Buffalo has to win. They have a crossover game in the NFC against the Eagles down the stretch too, which could be for like playoff seeding determinations, despite being AFC, NFC. And then they rep against the Jets, have the Browns too. Bills appear to be in a good spot among the wild card teams. The other wild card teams, who knows? Let's begin with the Chargers, and they are too hurt. I worry about LA. The bye is great, cool, that'll help them, but they might slide with the Jags, etc. Might flip that spot there. Big loss against Jacksonville in terms of like impacting the playoff outlook because they lose that tiebreaker now. Raiders, a game that they should win. That should get them to 8 wins, right? But Eagles, Chiefs, Dallas, Houston with wildcard implications, Denver down the stretch. They can't protect Justin Herbert, and they couldn't run the ball against the Jags. That's a really bad combination. Also can't stop the run. Jacksonville ran it right down their throats. Jacksonville is a weird team. Maybe they're just a young team with a new head coach, and that leads to some of the inconsistencies there. They are very much alive because they beat the Chargers. They actually have a higher playoff probability than LA because they got the Cardinals, the Titans twice, the Jets as well. They also have Indy twice and Denver once. I think 10 wins is going to be minimum to get into the AFC playoff race. But Jacksonville holds tiebreakers over the Chargers, over the Chiefs, and that stuff matters. And they have it, for now at least, or have it over the Texans. Texans, by the way, check in at number 8. Ugly but needed win over Tennessee. The schedule is doable, but like kind of control your own destiny if you pull some upsets here. Buffalo, Indy twice, the Chiefs, the Chargers. They're not out of it, but they got to just win games and pull upsets down the stretch here. 2 teams here outside the top 8 of the playoff hunt have a greater than 50% playoff chance, but it's down to 51% for Kansas City. And that upcoming game against Indy matters a lot. The schedule isn't overly daunting down the stretch. Dallas, Houston, the Chargers, the Titans, the Broncos, the Raiders, but I think the Chiefs have room for like one more loss. And if you lose 7 games, with the way the tiebreakers shake out, I'm not sure that's going to be enough for Kansas City. So beat Indy is, I think, a huge key for the Chiefs. Otherwise, we have to actually talk about Mahomes and the Chiefs not making the playoffs this year. So how worried should the Chiefs be about missing the postseason, given the schedule, given how they've looked so far this year? I don't think it's a 1. I think it's at least a 5. Let me know in the comments of today's show. The Baltimore Ravens at number 10. Ugly, but they got the win over the Browns. What a fun play that was by Todd Monken to call the fake tush-push reverse, essentially. I don't know, tush-push sweep? I don't know what to call it. But very fun play there. Schedule's not that hard. Jets, Tyrod Taylor game. Bengals may have Joe Burrow. We'll see. Big game against Pittsburgh. Those 2 games are as massive as they get. And then again against the Bengals. And then 3 tough ones down the stretch. Patriots, Packers, and Steelers. Ravens have a bit more margin for error because they're a game back of Pittsburgh now. Or like the Chiefs being 3 games back against the Denver Broncos. The other AFC teams, season's over. See you later. Write them off. They did not write back. Miami, Bengals, Raiders, Jets, Browns, Titans. All of them have a 1% or less than chance of making the postseason. Tennessee can't technically be eliminated this week, but next week I think we'll be talking about them being eliminated.